I'm Max Porterfield, President and CEO of Callinex Mines. We have some very high-grade VMS discoveries in northern Manitoba that are rich in copper, zinc, gold, and silver. They're actively expanding.
Max, thank you very much for the introduction. Good to be talking to you again. It's been a number of months since I last spoke to you, and in the interim, you've been busy exploring, and you've just published a mineral resource estimate update. You cover the Rainbow deposit, and you talk about you've got about 1 million tons at Pine Bay, and you're also exploring the Alchemist discovery. Tell us about the news release. Kind of give me some of the headlines.
Yeah, no, certainly we're very, very excited about this. This is really a culmination of the past, really in many ways, the 9 years of work since we commenced focus on VMS discoveries outside of Flin Flon or Pine Bay project. We made the discovery of Rainbow in 2020, our first drill hole into that. We put over 80 drill holes into the deposit area with over 40,000 meters of drilling, and that culminated with a maiden resource estimate that we just published on Monday of this week, July 10th. So on a global basis, we're at 5.7 million tons of high grade, roughly 3% copper equivalent across the board. In the indicated category or Rainbow deposit, we're at 3.44 million tons of nearly 3.6% copper equivalent. And then in the inferred category, there was 1.28 million tons of 2.95% copper equivalent. And then at our Pine Bay deposit, which sits parallel to Rainbow, roughly 900 meters away, that's 1 million tons of 2.62% copper. So we're very excited about this resource estimate we were able to publish earlier this week. And again, we're looking to continue to grow that resource base with the drilling campaign that we're actively pursuing, and it's ongoing as we speak.
Thank you. Now, obviously, to know what the economics are, you need to do technical studies and economic studies and all of that kind of stuff. But just kind of as a thumb suck, do you feel that this is economic style mineralization that you could, in theory, kind of develop a mine on?
Yeah, so we're very excited about it. If you really compare it to some of the biggest discoveries in the camp's history, for example, the initial resource disclosures that came from the Trout Lake Mine, 777 Mine, and Lawler, which are really the three flagship mines in the Flin Flon Belt's history since the original Flin Flon ore body was depleted. Rainbow and Pine Bay are actually larger, and those mines grew into very, very large discoveries and ultimately a very long life of mines. And so we're looking to see the same thing at our property at Pine Bay. In addition to that, the resource that we announced on Monday at Pine Bay is larger than 22 other base metal mines for the life of mine that was overall through the entire production that's been disclosed. So there's been 32 mines in the Flin Flon Belt's history. Again, the announcement that we made on Monday is that we're larger than 22 of those mines. And then in terms of the three large flagship mines, this resource estimate was larger than their initial resource disclosures. So there's real opportunity for the discoveries at Pine Bay, the ones that we've already made, to grow into something substantial. And at the end of the day, those discoveries are a very small footprint on the very large district scale land package that the company controls and is actively exploring.
And what about grade? I mean, you talk about kind of these are large in terms of tons, but the kind of perhaps the most crucial aspect at any stage in a mine's or a deposit's development history is its grade. So it's not just about tons. Kind of any commentary on where the grade sits relative to the historic mines?
Yeah, I mean, the grade's going to be on the top quartile, say, and that's just back of the envelope in terms of the other mines in the camp's history. If you look at the 777 mine, that one ran roughly 2.85% copper, 1.8 gram per ton gold. We're going to be more copper rich on the indicated category with 3.14% copper and then lower on the gold. But in terms of copper grades, we are definitely on the higher end of that spectrum. Some of the other mines are down in the 2% copper equivalent range to kind of give you a perspective. So definitely happy with the grade and happy with the tonnage that we've announced, and overall very pleased with where we've come in, relatively a short period of time since the main discovery. We entered 2021, for example, with just 3 holes in the Rainbow. So really it was, the past 2 years of drilling that led to that maiden resource we announced just earlier this week.
And just if I understand it right, you've got within Rainbow, you've got these. I like the new logo you're using on your presentations. By the way, it's good. It's a good touch.
Thank you.
But you've got the kind of the red and the orange and the yellow zones. Am I right in thinking that you drilled a kind of a mother hole and then daughter holes off it, or have you done directional drilling from that?
No, we haven't done any directional drilling. We've done wedging. So we do drill a parent hole, then we'll cut off of that, just wedging without directional drilling. We've had great success and pretty good control off of the drilling on the deposit area. And in fact, we also do something that where we cut off a drill hole and we can cut and wedge down. So we actually don't set a traditional wedge. So it's something that, we've got a really skilled group of drillers that work with us. And they've done an excellent job in terms of getting the drilling and the drill holes placed where they are, avoiding necessary, using directional drilling, which can be higher costs.
The resource that you've defined so far, the 3.44 and probably the 1.28 million tons of the inferred resource, that goes down to a depth of about, am I right in thinking about 800 meters? Have you got any intersections below that?
Yeah, no, you're correct. It goes a little bit deeper than 800 meters. It's almost 900 meters vertical depth in terms of all the drill intersections. So the deposit dips to roughly 82 degrees and is near vertical. So we're quite pleased. It's really amenable to an underground mining scenario for large bulk open stope mining technology to be utilized in this type of environment. Obviously, we haven't done that work, but just how it sits underground, it is much more amenable to an underground mining scenario where we're not going to bring a lot of waste rock to surface. If you look at other mines in the Flin Flon District, they don't have that. The Callinex 777 mine did probably at a 55-degree angle. And then if you look at Lawler is nearly flat. So we're quite pleased with what geology is presented to us. So naturally, the way it sits, there's a potential for it to go much deeper than even the mines historically have.
You recently published an exploration update or kind of an exploration plan for the year. You're talking about a 20,000 meter drill program in 2 phases. The first phase being half of that, 10,000 meters, and you talk about targeting the Rainbow deposit at depth down to 1,300 meters. And so is that basically filling in that 400 meters of potential? And is that defined by geophysics, or how come you're targeting that particular 400 meters?
Well, that's just the down plunge extension of the known mineralization. So that's just one hole that we'll be testing at depth initially out of the gate. That's supported by borehole EM off of a number of drill holes at depth on the property, as well as geochemistry. And of course, geology is a guiding factor in anything that we do. We're led by geology. We really call it the 3 Gs of exploration: geology, geophysics, and geochemistry. Then we're also testing Rainbow to the south based upon borehole EM data off of the maiden discovery hole PPM 111 that intersected Rainbow in August 2020. It supported something to the south, but we were focusing the drilling to date on the biggest vector in terms of conductance, which is ultimately what is the orange and yellow zone predominantly. You wouldn't see the red zone from how deep that discovery hole was on Rainbow.
When you talk about the biggest vector, is that the down dip, the down plunge extension, or is it the down strike extension to the south? I wasn't sure which one was the strongest vector.
So there's two. Sorry about that. There's 2 holes that we'll be drilling in the phase 1 campaign. One's the down plunge extension, so vertically below the mineralization we've intersected. And then we're also going to be testing along strike to the south off of the discovery hole based upon a different vector. Both of them are guided and led by borehole geology. Borehole EM geophysics as the key vectoring tool that's kind of guiding us, which is typically how you vector with these VMS systems.
Am I right in thinking that you're also drilling at Alchemist as well as part of that 10,000 meter program?
Yeah, so the 10,000 meter program absolutely will be coming up vertically below and vertically above the Alchemist discovery. Alchemist is really in its infancy. We had just 3 holes into Alchemist going into this year, so we'll be adding to that. But the 10,000 meter program is going to be spread across a number of high-grade intersections, along this growth fault corridor that hosts Alchemist, Rainbow, Pine Bay, as well as the historic resources on site with the Cabin, Baker Patton, the North Star Mine, and the Donjon Mine all sit along that growth fault corridor. So we'll be testing targets along the Rainbow Horizon to the north, testing target area Odin. Target area Odin sits between Alchemist and Rainbow. That's a large chargeability iso shell. Excellent geology, geochemistry supporting of the that discovery. I mean, the potential in that area. There we hit some of the highest grade precious metals intersections on the property, 0.5 meter of over 5 gram per ton gold, nearly 60 gram per ton silver. We really like that area, based upon that silver intercept, because silver is not mobile. So you don't see silver remobilized a great distance. So in VMS exploration, we do like to see very high grade silver on known mineralized horizons. So that's why we like Odin so much. And then we'll also be revisiting the Cabin horizon that hosts the historic Cabin deposit. At that horizon, we had a big discovery hole in late 2016. It was a wide intercept, very lowly conducted. We stepped out, we were able to replicate another high-grade intersection in that, but we're going to be revisiting that again with a renewed exploration focus based on all the success that we've had on different areas of property, obviously with Rainbow, Alchemist, and so on. So there's a number of horizons, about 5 of them that we'll be testing in this first 10,000 meter campaign. And then at the conclusion of that campaign, we'll have a brief break and then recommence exploration with the final 10,000 meters that will commence, sometime in the fall.
You, in previous conversations, you've spoken about a kind of a mill rock on the growth fault. You had one area which had a kind of a good potential of that particular conglomerate or that fault rock. Have you mentioned that? Is that in the mix?
Oh, well, certainly. I mean, mill rocks all around various areas of the property. We also have mill rock mapped to the north on the what would be the kind of the northern extent of the Rainbow Horizon, as well as the Odin and Alchemist horizons to the north on a different growth fault corridor. So certainly mill rock is in the mix. We're always looking for that agglomerate rock type, and certainly it's a key part of that. I mean, geology drives us. I mean, the reason why we spent so much time here just to revisit that, because the property encompasses the largest felsic volcanic rock package in the entire Flin Flon greenstone belt that's been mapped at surface, which is a host rock of 90% of the mines ever mined in the camp. So you need to be looking in the felsics. Again, we've got the largest land package of felsics, and then the alteration system over near the Baker Patton and Cabin horizons on that shoreline. Obviously, you can't map things underwater. Has an alteration system that's nearly 700 by 1,100 meters at minimum, which is why Placidome, Inmet, and others opine for very large exploration targets on the area. Placidome, for example, had a 30 million ton exploration target when they explored the property between 1990 and 1993, and they were the last true operators. But we're the only quote-unquote operator or explorer of the property that spent over 3 years exploring it, and with the same team. With Placidome, 2 of those years was with one lead. The final year was with a different geologist, because the main geologist actually had an opportunity to go work at Kit Creek at the time. So that's truly why Placidome left. It wasn't because they didn't think there was a large ore body. I actually reached out to them, back in 2014 before we started this entire process to hear their thoughts with the guys that were on the field and did the work then. So again, oftentimes in the business, on average, it's 6 exploration company that makes the big discovery, and certainly there have been more than 6 in this part of the world here. But we're the ones that have the most expertise, brought in modern tools. They're not, the traditional tool set for the camp, and we spent the most time. And time is very important in exploration, because the more time you spend, the more you learn, just like anything else that's research driven. I mean, research takes time, and we're in a research driven environment, certainly.
Sure. So what I'm hearing from crystal clear is kind of exploration. You feel there's potential in the area. What do you think the timeline is going to be on that first 10,000 meters? Sorry.
Yeah, in terms of the timeline for the first 10,000 meters, we slated 3 to 4 month timeline in terms of getting the drilling done. That has been slowed a bit, so there's going to be a slight delay in terms of that timeline. But we will provide an update at some point in the future on that, and then ultimately release those results all at once, and then follow up to those results again in the fall with the final 10,000 meters that's fully budgeted from the financing that we completed in March of this year.
Does that mean that the second half is going to be a winter drilling program, or do you think it's all going to be kind of pre-ice?
No, I mean, it probably will spread into the winter. I mean, things go much slower when you're drilling an exploration. That's just the nature of the beast. So ice does come pretty early, but in terms of drilling off of ice, it is actually a benefit when we have ice because there's a lot of lakes in the area. But we've been able to do all the drilling over the past, call it 2.5, 3 years since we hit Rainbow in 2020 off of land. And a lot of the targets, we haven't been encumbered by not having the ice or getting access to the ice. So again, maybe there's ice, maybe there's not ice, but either way, we're gonna get the work done.
In terms of exploration, that's all great. It's always useful to get a kind of an early heads up on mineral behavior and metallurgical responses. It's really useful to kind of get that information. Where are you in terms of the kind of metallurgical understanding of these projects, and where have you taken the samples from? Are they all from Pine Bay, or have you taken some material from Rainbow as well?
So in terms of the metallurgical test work, we're utilizing historic work that was done really in knowledge base of the entire camp on average. So we haven't done any met testing. Actually, just before this call, I was on the phone with SGS having this kind of conversation in terms of where the next steps are. So that is in the plans moving forward to begin getting the proper tests to begin that journey on its own. So no met work has been done. We've utilized the camp's rich history and our knowledge base on those deposits in the resource estimate that's out there. Because again, we're not in a camp that hasn't produced mines. I mean, there's been 32 of them. We've got a number on our property. And so there's a rich data set to base things off of and the assumptions that we've made in the resource that we announced on Monday.
Indeed, although I would always caution that when it comes to VMS deposits, the kind of the metallurgical or the mineralogical variability can be extreme on quite a short distance. So it's always good to get even just a petrographic study.
You have to keep in mind there was mineralogy and Pine Bay deposit as a whole was taken to feasibility study on 2 different occasions. The last was by Hud Bay in 1973. So there has been some historic work on Pine Bay per se. And, I agree. It should be noted that there hasn't been a deposit in Flin Flon's history that didn't go into production because it had met problems. So again, you've got a robust history. We will get to that when the time is right. We are starting that conversation, and that will be addressed, but that's how we've addressed it in the resource estimate that we've announced.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the financing, you had about $9 million in March, and you've just raised 9.4. So you're presumably quite well capitalized at the moment. Is that going to? How long do you think that's going to last you? Is it going to kind of? Are you thinking 12 months? Are you thinking 18 months, or less, or more?
I would say 12 to 18 months, certainly on the capital raise. That's fully funding the 20,000 meters of drilling that we commenced, mid to late March there. So again, we're very grateful for that capital raise and everyone that's supportive of that. We had some of the largest institutions in Canada participate that were new, as well as existing shareholders that are stable. So again, we're really pleased with that, and we're going to get the work done just like we have, year over year over the past 9 years.
And your share price has been on a bit of a wild ride this year. I mean, earlier in the year, in April, you were up at $4.40, and then in June you're down at $2.56 or something, and now you're back up at $3.39. It's quite a volatile thing. How do you? And your market capitalization's $59 million. How do you see? What do you see as the kind of the step changes for value? I mean, because potentially, as the tonnage grows, you could be talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of value, not tens of millions of dollars. But there needs to be catalysts. There needs to be a route to that. Your thoughts on that trajectory, please.
Well, I mean, certainly exploration is a wild ride in terms of volatility. I think you can use that volatility to your benefit if you're a savvy investor. We have performed well on news flow. We did have a nice move earlier this year on the backdrop of assay results coming out of our Q4 drilling in 2022, bringing Peter Jones onto our team, as well as outlining our exploration approach for 2023. The stock did come off, as you mentioned, but that's just been on, I think the whole industry's come off in terms of global growth concerns, particularly, China during a recession, and he had to pull back in copper prices since we did the capital raise. So I think that's normal. What I was really pleased with is seeing the share price performance on the announcement that we made on Monday. Oftentimes on a maiden mineral resource estimate, it underwhelms or doesn't meet market's expectation, and you see the stock come off, particularly with the timing of the 4-month hold being lifted as well in late June from the financing that we completed earlier this year. But again, the people that participate are long-term, very stable investors, and it just shows that the market's quite pleased with the resource we announced. Now, in terms of moving forward, we've got a strong slate of news flow ahead of us with 20,000 meters of drilling. And again, any big intercept or big step out on unknown discoveries can, again, propel the stock much, much higher and be a critical tipping point. What I like to see is now that we have the resource out, really creates a platform and understanding, because up until now, if you were an investor looking at this, you wouldn't really know how to value what's there. You wouldn't know how to quantify the size and the grade of what we had drilled out since the discovery hole in 2020, as I mentioned, at Rainbow. So with that now out there as a platform, people can then anticipate any other successes that we have on the property from exploration as really is a stepping up based upon that platform. So I'm very, very excited about what's to come. I'm very pleased with everything that we've accomplished this year, but we're certainly not done with the work that we're doing, and we've got a long road ahead of us that's going to be very, very exciting and provide a lot of upside on the backdrop of what I view as a rising metal price environment in the copper and base metal space. In particular, I do think gold's going to be quite strong as well for the medium to long term.
Max, thank you. Good observations. Just in terms of, you said you've got lots of news flow coming up, but in an earlier moment, you said that you were going to kind of bunch your news flow together. Could you just give me a little bit more clarity on how you're going to communicate with the market between now and perhaps kind of the middle of next year while this exploration program is completed? Are you going to do it in batches, or are you going to do it as and when the news comes through?
Well, I think that we're going to put it out in not as and when the news comes through, in terms of, I'm not going to put out holes, or we're not going to put holes, one hole, two holes at a time. That's never proven to be successful, quite frankly, because then you're living and dying by every single hole that you put out and expectations on that one or two holes. And that's just not how exploration works, quite frankly. So we will, report out to the market on a regular basis, just like we've done over the past 9 years since I joined the company in 2014. And we're going to do that with the fully funded exploration campaign that we have ongoing, and any other additional catalysts that come in, whether it be getting a grant like we have in years past, whether it be initiating some kind of met work or applying for funding on that front as well. That will all be communicated in a timely manner to the market. And I think that people will be quite pleased as we move forward and grow the property, the project. Good.
Well, thank you. I really enjoyed getting the update today, and I look forward to seeing the news as it comes out in the months ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us. And again, I'm very excited to always be here to communicate with yourself and your followers, and very excited to be continuing to give updates as we progress the exploration campaign this year.